Have you ever felt like your English is just stuck? Like it's good enough to get by, but it's not great? People understand you, you don't make huge grammar mistakes, but you know you're not making the impression you want. I was in that exact spot. I was fluent, but my English was trapped in the land of just okay. And I didn't even realize why until a college professor, Dr. Evans, pulled me aside one day. She was brutally honest. She looked at me and said, "Your English is perfectly understandable, but it's lazy. And it makes you sound lazy." I was floored. Lazy? I was one of the hardest working students in her class. I spent hours on my assignments. But she wasn't talking about my work ethic. She was talking about my speaking habits. She had noticed 3 specific patterns in my speech, things I'd picked up from movies and casual chats, thinking they made me sound more natural and relaxed. But she showed me how they were actually holding me back, making me sound uninterested, unclear, and like I just couldn't be bothered. Getting rid of these 3 habits completely changed how people saw me, and it had nothing to do with learning new vocabulary or complex grammar. It was all about dropping the laziness. So what was the first lazy habit? I call it the go-to grunt. You know what I'm talking about? It's that automatic response. Yeah, no, I know, or no, yeah, for sure. It's a verbal shrug. It's the noise you make when you don't want to think, but you have to say something. I used it all the time. I remember we were in a class discussion about a book, and someone asked if I agreed with a certain theme. My instant reply: "Yeah, no, I get it." Dr. Evans stopped the entire conversation. She looked at me and asked, "Do you agree or disagree?" Yeah, no, isn't a position. It's a dismissal. It tells everyone you can't be bothered to form a real opinion. Ouch! But she was right. It was a conversational dead end. So she gave me a challenge. Ban the phrase. For a whole week, I wasn't allowed to say yeah, no, or no, yeah. It was surprisingly difficult. My brain wanted to go to that default setting. The next time a similar situation came up, I had to physically pause. I took a breath, thought for a second, and then actually formed a sentence. I said, "I agree with the main point, but I think the author is focusing more on the theme of regret, not just loss." And just like that, the conversation opened up. People started responding to my actual idea. We went deeper. That lazy grunt, that yeah, no, had been keeping my ideas shallow. It was a barrier I was putting up myself. Replacing it with a clear "I agree, I disagree," or "I see your point," but made me an active participant, not just a bystander in my own conversations. The second habit was just as bad, maybe even worse. I called it the thing and stuff swap. My entire world was filled with these vague, fuzzy words. I'd say things like, "Can you pass me that thing over there?" Or, after a movie, "Wow, I really liked all the stuff in that film." In a team meeting, I might say, "We really need to talk about the thing with the project." It felt easy. It felt casual. But Dr. Evans had a name for it. Linguistic vagueness. She explained it perfectly. She said, when you use words like thing or stuff, you're asking your listener to do all the work. You're making them guess what you mean. It's imprecise, and honestly, it's a bit impolite. That hit me hard. I thought I was being easygoing, but I was actually being inconsiderate of the other person's time and mental energy. So I started another challenge for myself. I had to find the right word, even if it took me an extra 2 or 3 seconds to think of it. It was a conscious effort. So, "Can you pass me that thing?" became, "Can you pass me the remote?" I liked the stuff in that movie turned into, "I really liked the cinematography and the dialogue in that movie." And the thing with the project became the budget delay on the project. The change was immediate. I sounded sharper. I sounded more prepared. In meetings, people didn't have to ask me clarifying questions anymore. My points were clear from the start. It's a small change, but it signals to everyone around you that you are thinking clearly and that you respect their time enough to be specific. By naming the thing, I was taking ownership of my communication. I wasn't offloading the work onto someone else. And that precision made me sound so much more professional and intelligent. Now the third habit was the sneakiest of all. It was the most subtle, and I had no idea I was even doing it. Dr. Evans pointed out what she called the run-on Valley Girl Upspeak. This is where you end your statements with a rising intonation, making them sound like questions. I would tell a story like this. "So I went to the store, and then I saw my friend Mark, and he told me this crazy story, and it was kind of awkward." Every single sentence sounded like I was looking for approval, like I was unsure of my own experience. It was as if I was constantly asking, "Is that okay? Am I telling this right? Do you believe me? Dr. Evans told me, you are stating a fact. But you are phrasing it like you hope I'll validate it for you. End your sentences with a period, not a question mark. Own your narrative. This one was all about vocal control. I had to practice it, sometimes by myself, just saying simple sentences with a firm, falling, definitive tone at the end. I went to the store, I saw Mark. It was awkward. It felt strange at first. It felt almost too assertive, too bold. But then I realized it just felt powerful. I was claiming my own statements. I wasn't asking for permission to speak. This habit is so common, especially if you watch a lot of American TV shows or movies. But in a professional or academic setting, it completely undermines your authority. It makes you sound hesitant and lacking in confidence. When I finally learned to end my sentences with a downward inflection, to put a period on my thoughts, I sounded more decisive. I sounded sure of myself. My ideas carried more weight because I delivered them as if they mattered, not as if they were fragile questions needing validation. So those were the three culprits: the go to Grunt, the thing and stuff swap, and the Upspeak. Getting rid of them didn't require me to buy a new textbook or memorize vocabulary lists. It just required vigilance. It required mindfulness in my daily speech. It was about making a conscious choice to trade the easy, automatic filler word for the slightly harder, more specific word. It was about replacing a lazy verbal shrug with an actual, complete sentence. And the effect wasn't just on my English. The real change was in how people perceived me. It was in how I perceived myself. In meetings, I wasn't the guy who said, yeah, no, anymore. I was the guy who had a clear position. In conversations, I wasn't the friend who talked about stuff. I was the friend who had specific, interesting observations. I wasn't just speaking better English. I was showing up as a more thoughtful, present, and confident version of myself. My language had been lazy. That was true. But I wasn't a lazy person. And finally, after breaking those three habits, I didn't sound like one anymore. Thanks so much for watching. If this was helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tips on how to communicate with confidence. See you in the next one.